My daughter, Yuan, my painting prodigy, had her retinas brutally harvested. Unable to bear the blow, she jumped from the rooftop. I desperately lunged to grab her, but I fell onto the inflatable rescue cushion, miraculously surviving. When I woke up in the hospital, the tearing agony in my chest made me realize my breasts had been completely removed. And all of this was a conspiracy meticulously planned by my husband. My daughter's retinas were transplanted into his mistress's illegitimate son, and my mutilated breast tissue became the filling for Song Ning's breast augmentation surgery. Outside the ward, footsteps approached. I immediately put my phone back in place and closed my eyes, pretending to be in a coma. Lin Lu reached out and smoothed the hair from my forehead, asking in a cold voice, "Didn't they say her vital signs were stable? Why isn't she waking up?" The doctor shook his head and sighed. "Mr. Lin, your wife fell from a great height and suffered a severe concussion. Coupled with the mastectomy, the wound is quite large, and she lost a lot of blood during the surgery. It's normal for her not to wake up right away." Lin Lu pondered for a moment, then probed, "When she wakes up, you know how to explain it, right?" The doctor nodded hesitantly, a hint of reluctance in his eyes. "Mr. Lin, your wife just lost her daughter, and you've taken away her symbol of womanhood for Ms. Song Ning's enhancement surgery. Isn't that too cruel to her? What if she also loses the will to live and attempts suicide?" "Shut up! You know that using human tissue is much safer and more natural than silicone. I promised Ning I would grant her wish." Lin Lu interrupted impatiently. "Don't worry, and Ning is strong. She loves me so much, she wouldn't want to die." He added, "Oh, and Ning is afraid of pain, prescribe more painkillers, don't let her suffer." Just then, Assistant Wang rushed in, pushing the door open, and whispered in Lin Lu's ear, "Mr. Lin, Ms. Sun Ji has been crying, saying she's scared. Should we?" Before he could finish, Lin Lu grabbed the doctor, stood up abruptly, and rushed out the door without looking back. I was alone in the ward again. The regular beeping of the machines grated on my fragile nerves. Even though I summoned all my strength, the tears wouldn't stop flowing. So, my daughter's kidnapping and blindness weren't an accident after all. It was my husband who planned it, just so his illegitimate son could see again. And when I was severely injured from the fall, the most precious thing a woman has was taken from me, just to please his mistress. My poor daughter, she was only 5 years old, a little girl who loved being beautiful, yet she was forced to jump and disfigure herself. The painkillers were wearing off, and I felt an agonizing, bone-deep pain in my chest. My gaze drifted downward. My chest was tightly bound with bandages, layer upon layer, yet I could still make out the outlines of 2 deep hollows. I squeezed my eyes shut, letting the pain consume me until I drifted into unconsciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Lin Lu stroking my cheek with a look of concern. "And Ning, thank God, you're finally awake. It's all my fault for not protecting you both. I've already lost Yuan, I can't lose you too." I glanced down at my flat chest. Fresh bandages were already stained with blood. Lin Lu quickly got up, pulled me into his arms, and covered my eyes with one hand. "Good girl, and Ning, don't look." "What happened to me?" I asked, though I knew. Lin Lu opened his mouth with difficulty but couldn't speak. The doctor explained, "Mrs. Lin, when you fell from the rooftop, you landed on your chest. The tissue was completely necrotic. To save your life, we had to perform a mastectomy." Seeing my pale face, Lin Lu quickly comforted me. "Don't be afraid, Ning. Medical aesthetics are so advanced now, I'll make sure you recover completely." I looked at Lin Lu with a blank stare. "What about Yuan? I just want to see Yuan one last time. You were in a coma for too long. Yuan has already been laid to rest." "I'm sorry, Ning. It's my fault, I gave the criminals an opportunity. But don't worry, the mastermind has been caught. They were desperate men, only looking for money, but Yuan struggled too violently, so they were ruthless. The police said they'll get at least life imprisonment." I bit down hard on my lip. 10 years of marriage, and I hadn't realized how adept Lin Lu was at lying. I stared intently into his eyes. He shifted his gaze uncomfortably. He opened a container on the nearby cabinet and offered it to me. And Ning, I specifically bought crab roast soup dumplings. Quickly, have some. Looking at the cold dumplings in front of me, I only felt mockery. No, thanks. I can't eat greasy food after surgery. Crab roast soup dumplings were Song Ning's favorite. Even after she married someone else, Lin Lu still remembered. After years of marriage, he had become accustomed to buying them for me, even mistaking it for my preference. Lin Lu froze for a moment, then smiled bitterly and rubbed his forehead. I didn't think it through. I'll go buy some porridge right away. With that, he got up and rushed out of the ward. My phone vibrated. Another anonymous email. This time, it wasn't just an audio recording, but video footage of Lin Lu and Song Ning entwined in bed. Even with the blurring, it was easy to recognize them. Lin Lu buried his head deep in Song Ning's embrace, feeling an immediate surge of heat. Ning, you're so beautiful. Thanks to your wife, I didn't expect that stupid woman was quite well endowed. She'll never be whole again, she definitely won't have the nerve to cling to me for affection. Ning, from now on, I'll be faithful to you alone. A sharp pain pierced my heart, and I abruptly turned off the screen. His daughter died tragically, yet he had the heart to cavort with Song Ning. Gee, he didn't deserve to be a father. After we married, I struggled to conceive for a long time. It was a miracle when we finally had Yuan. I used to think it was just fate, until I heard that audio recording and learned he had already had an illegitimate son with Song Ning. For Song Ning's sake, he secretly swapped the folic acid pills by my bedside with birth control pills, causing me years of infertility and making me feel guilty towards him. 5 years ago, Lin Zhozhou had acute leukemia and couldn't find a suitable match. He needed cord blood to save his life, which was why Lin Lu allowed me to have Yuan. 3 months ago, Lin Zhozhou got into a fight and injured his eyes. Lin Lu then planned a kidnapping, took Yuan's corneas, and killed her. My precious baby, whom I doted on, was nothing more than a collection of organs to serve Lin Zhozhou and Lin Lu's eyes. And Song Ning, who stole my husband, killed my daughter, took my breasts, was now sending me emails to gloat. If that's the case, I will make this pair of dogs pay the price. The day I was discharged, Lin Lu carried me from the ward to the hospital entrance in a wheelchair. Along the way, envious glances and whispers of what a good husband made the corners of his mouth turn up. I used to feel lucky to be married to such a gentle and attentive man, but now I knew, it was all just a facade for the outside world. As we approached the car, a sweet, delicate female voice called out to Lin Lu. I immediately felt the man holding me stiffen. What a coincidence, Lu! Song Ning walked over, smiling sweetly. Lin Lu nervously released me. I wasn't stable yet and hit the car door hard. The wound in my chest throbbed with pain. I swallowed back my tears. Lu, after all these years, you're still so clumsy. You hurt and Ning. Song Ning teased triumphantly. Lin Lu seemed to realize his reaction was too suspicious and quickly supported me, looking down with concern. I looked at Song Ning. She was wearing a sophisticated skirt suit, her chest curves voluptuous. A massive blue sapphire gleamed, making her skin appear like snow. I recognized it instantly. It was the highlight piece at an auction 6 months ago, selling for 300 million. At the time, Lin Lu had a high fever but insisted on going to the auction, saying he wanted to buy the necklace as my birthday gift. But when he returned, he looked frustrated and told me a mysterious buyer had snatched it. Turns out, there was no mysterious buyer. He had simply spent a fortune to please Song Ning. If this had happened before, I would have demanded an explanation from Lin Lu. But now, I simply commented calmly, the necklace is beautiful. Lin Lu's brows furrowed slightly, and he quickly changed the subject. Ning, is something wrong? Why are you at the hospital out of the blue? Song Ning's smile widened. She took an invitation from her bag and handed it to Lin Lu. Tomorrow is Zhozhou's 10th birthday. I went to your house to find you, and the housekeeper told me Ning was in the hospital. Lu, you'll come, won't you? Zhozhou has been looking forward to it. My heart sank. I almost bit through my teeth. Tomorrow was Yuan's 7th day. Song Ning was deliberately twisting the knife in my wound. I looked up at Lin Lu, waiting for his answer. Lin Lu hesitated for a moment, then accepted the invitation. A 10th birthday is a big deal, I'll definitely be there. After saying that, he avoided my eyes, quickly said goodbye to Song Ning, and helped me into the car. Behind us, Song Ning's eyes darted, she let out a soft ouch, clutched her chest, and stumbled a few steps. Lin Lu immediately dropped me and rushed to support her, examining her with a look of deep concern. Then he apologized to me. Ning's old problem flared up again. I'll take her to see a doctor. And Ning, I'll have the driver take you home first. With that, he picked up Song Ning and rushed into the hospital without looking back. A bit terse smile played on my lips. He called her Ning affectionately, yet addressed me by my full name. The distinction was clear. When we first got married, I asked him to call me in, but he always brushed it off, saying it was too mushy and he wasn't used to it. Now it seemed he simply never had me in his heart. Returning home, everything related to Yuan had been cleared out. Lin Lu said it was to prevent me from being upset by reminders, but I saw it as his guilty conscience, desperate to erase all traces. Every year on Yuan's birthday, he always found an excuse to miss it. Now I realized, he must have been with Song Ning and her son. Because Yuan's birthday was also Lin Zhozhou's rebirth day. My poor Yuan, she would wait by her birthday cake every year until the candles burned out, waiting for her dad. Every time I thought of her innocent little face, her bright, sparkling eyes asking, when will daddy come back to celebrate my birthday with me, my heart shattered. I went to the study to write a divorce agreement. I happened to see a lockbox in the desk drawer. As if possessed, I opened it. The password was Song Ning's birthday. Inside were stacks of photos. In every single one, Lin Lu was looking gently at Song Ning and Lin Zhozhou in his arms. Their happiness was so blinding. At the bottom of the box was an envelope containing Lin Lu's will. Several words in bold font were prominently displayed. After his death, all his assets would be unconditionally gifted to Lin Zhozhou. I went to the large tree in the yard and dug up the little treasures Yuan used to hide when she played there, her favorite toy dog, her favorite strawberry gummies. She used to say that if you buried the things you loved, they would grow into lots and lots of treasures. As I dug, her tender, lovely face filled my mind. When I unearthed a rolled-up painting, I couldn't hold back anymore and burst into tears. It was a family portrait she had drawn herself for her 5th birthday. In the picture, Lin Lu and I were celebrating with her, blowing out candles, and she was smiling innocently. Tragically, she died without ever having her dad celebrate her birthday with her. Heartbroken, I took out my phone and, from memory, dialed a series of numbers. Senior brother, I'm requesting to return to the team. And, I want Lin Lu dead. Early the next morning, Lin Lu was by my bedside, personally feeding me medicine. And Ning, today is Yuan's 7th day. I need to go to the cemetery. You're still weak. Stay home and rest. I didn't speak, tacitly agreeing to his arrangement. Soon after, the roar of a sports car echoed from outside. It was the car Lin Lu bought last month, spending 30 million just because Lin Zhozhou said he liked it. I watched the bright red blur drive west, exactly the direction of the hotel where Lin Zhozhou's birthday party was held. I sneered, changed into a black coat, and headed for the cemetery. He could abandon Yuan's 7th day for Lin Zhozhou, but as her mother, I couldn't bear the thought of Yuan suffering alone. But I searched the entire cemetery and couldn't find Yuan's grave. A wave of unease washed over me. I stopped a cemetery worker and asked, "Oh, you mean that little girl named Lin Yuan? Her father consulted someone who said the girl's death was tragic and carried heavy malevolent energy that would clash with him, so she couldn't be buried in a regular cemetery. They moved her to the neglected plot south of here. Maybe they were afraid of gossip, so they put up a plain tombstone for her over there." Neglected plot, my mind exploded. How could Lin Lu be so heartless, leaving Yuan to die without a proper burial? I quickly wiped away my tears and drove to the neglected plot. After searching for a long time, I finally found the small mound with Yuan's name on it. A lonely urn was casually left beside it. On the small photo, Yuan was smiling sweetly. My Ached. I picked up the urn and sped away. I kicked open the door to Lin Zhou's birthday party. Everyone turned their heads at the sound of the door being kicked open. I spotted Lin Lu immediately, standing center stage, holding Lin Zhou. He clearly hadn't expected my arrival. His smile froze, and he stood rooted to the spot. Lin Zhou was the first to react. He was wearing a tailored suit, his hair slicked back, and he swaggered towards me, looking me up and down with contempt. He was only a 10-year-old boy, but he exuded an annoying arrogance. Are you the bad woman who stole Uncle Lu? What are you doing here? He pouted at me dismissively, his eyes lighting up when they fell on the urn in my arms. Is that my birthday present? Before I could speak, he reached out to snatch it. Thinking of the bright, clear eyes in his sockets that rightfully belonged to Yuan, my rage flared. I dodged sideways, and Lin Zhou fell to the ground, unprepared. He immediately burst into tears. Uncle Lu! Mommy! This bad woman bullied me. Seeing Lin Zhou cry so heartbrokenly, Lin Lu was instantly distressed. He picked him up and comforted him, then turned a stern face to me. Ning! Today is Zhou's birthday. What are you doing? Quick, apologize to the child. Apologize to the culprit who killed Yuan? Lin Lu, you truly have no heart. Just as I was about to charge forward and argue with him, Song Ning blocked me, clicking in her high heels. It's okay, Lu, he's just a child throwing a tantrum. How can we ask Ning to apologize? She put on a show of being generous and understanding, then pulled me aside and said in a low voice, her face changing. Ning, your daughter is gone, and you've become some kind of freak, neither man nor woman. If I were you, I'd hide at home every day and never come out. You saw how virile Lu is when he's with me, right? He's never been like that with you. He said every time with you was just routine, just getting it over with. Only I can make his blood boil. Speaking of which, I should thank you and your daughter. One contributed corneas for my son, and the other contributed a pair of breasts for me. You know, when your daughter died, her whole body was like mud. It was the kind of sight that would give you nightmares. My chest heaved violently. I couldn't bear it any longer and slapped her across the face. Lin Lu rushed forward, grabbed my wrist, and shoved me to the ground. Ning! You shrew! Who gave you permission to lay a hand on Ning? I ignored his furious roar, staring blankly at the urn that had fallen to the ground. My heart shattered into dust. I looked up, my eyes crimson, and grabbed Lin Lu's collar, yelling hysterically. Lin Lu! Do you know what's in this box? Lin Lu glanced at it, bewildered. Whatever it is, apologize to Ning first. I gave a cold laugh. Do you even remember what day today is? Today is our daughter's 7th day. And you're celebrating someone else's child's birthday? How can there be a father like you in this world? Lin Lu felt somewhat guilty. And Ning, I know you're heartbroken that Yuan is gone, but life has to go on. I've already been to the cemetery to see Yuan, burned paper offerings for her, and even brought her favorite snacks. You can't just dwell in sorrow and drag everyone else down with you. I couldn't stand his hypocritical face anymore. My daughter is dead, and you murderers are celebrating. Do you have any conscience? Lin Lu's face changed drastically. What nonsense are you talking? Who are the murderers? The kidnappers have already faced legal punishment. What else do you want? I pointed at the scattered ashes on the ground, laughing crazily. Lin Lu, then say it to Yuan's ashes. Why was she kidnapped out of the blue? Why did she suddenly go blind? Did my breasts really become necrotic and have to be removed? Lin Lu's brow furrowed tighter. His lips trembled in disbelief. Are you saying that's Yuan in the box? Ning, are you crazy? You dug up your daughter's grave? Song Ning, who was standing aside clutching her face, seemed to realize something and immediately stepped forward to pull Lin Lu away and soothe him. It's all right, Lu. And Ning is just too upset, I understand her. Let's talk about this later. Come on, Zhou hasn't blown out his birthday candles yet. Lin Lu snorted heavily and followed Song Ning. I knelt down, gathering Yuan's ashes little by little, tears streaming down my face despite myself. Leaving the hotel, I drove to the port and boarded a cruise ship heading for international waters. Lin Lu, the next time we meet, it will be your death. After the birthday party ended, Lin Lu returned home, but Ning wasn't there. The image of Ning rushing into the banquet hall with the urn kept replaying in his mind. Ning's stubborn face made him feel vaguely uneasy. Ning loved Yuan so much, how could she possibly dig up her daughter's ashes just to cause trouble at a birthday party out of spite? He picked up his phone and called Ning's number, but it went straight to voicemail. He felt a growing sense of regret and frustration. He had lashed out at her in front of so many people during the day. She must be furious. It was truly his fault. Knowing Ning was emotional, how could he lose his temper like that and say so many hurtful things? He was now desperate to see Ning, to hold her close and apologize properly. Just then, the door was pushed open, and a graceful figure quietly slipped in. Without thinking, Lin Lu blurted out, "Ning, you're back. I was wrong earlier." When he saw the face of the person, Lin Lu let out a heavy sigh and slumped back into the chair. "Ning, it's you." A flicker of jealousy crossed Song Ning's eyes. She reached out and put her hands on his shoulders. "What's wrong? Feeling sorry for Ning now?" "No," Lin Lu answered reflexively. Song Ning didn't seem to mind. Instead, she took out a photo and leaned against Lin Lu, her face full of happiness. "Look, this year's family photo. Jojo is looking more and more like you. Hurry and put it in the safe." Lin Lu, as usual, entered the password and was surprised to find an extra document in the safe. He opened it, puzzled. The words divorce agreement made him freeze. Ning, she actually wanted to divorce him. How could this be? He had only said a few harsh words to her in public. How could it escalate to divorce? Looking closer, the date on the document was the day before their argument. Lin Lu's unease grew stronger. Ning, had she discovered something? Thinking this, Lin Lu called Ning a few more times, but without exception, they all went to voicemail. Lin Lu clenched his fist and slammed the desk with a resounding crash. It was the first time Song Ning had seen Lin Lu so panicked and violent. She was consumed by jealousy. Ning really is something. You just said a few things to her, and she's throwing a tantrum by demanding a divorce. It's probably for the best anyway. Saves her from making you angry all the time. She said so many nasty things today, cursing me and Jojo. I didn't tell you because I was trying to be considerate. She pouted, pretending to be wronged, but Lin Lu interrupted her. No, I know Ning. She's not the type to play these games. She must have found out something. With that, he left Song Ning and went straight to the garage, driving off. Song Ning watched the man rush away without looking back, stomping her foot in anger. This was the first time he had abandoned her for another woman. That thing, Ning, neither man nor woman, how dare she? For years, Lin Lu used every resource and method at his disposal, but he couldn't find a trace of Ning, as if she had vanished into thin air. His mind was in chaos, but he forced himself to calmly review everything that had happened recently. He suddenly remembered the image of Ning holding Yuan's urn that day, feeling increasingly like he had overlooked something. Lin Lu had Assistant Wang report Ning's movements over the past few days, and learned she had gone to the cemetery. His heart tightened, and he immediately summoned the cemetery administrator for questioning. Lin Lu learned what had happened that day. He grabbed the man by the throat and asked through gritted teeth, "You said putting the child in the neglected plot was my idea? How could I not know? What the hell are you talking about?" The administrator felt as though the man in front of him was also suffering from some kind of madness. "It was a beautifully dressed woman who said it was your instruction. We just followed orders." Lin Lu immediately understood everything. He clenched his fists tightly and punched the wall. Song Ning. He trusted her so completely, leaving Yuan's funeral arrangements entirely to her, and she had done something so monstrous. On the 7th day, she had volunteered to handle everything, which was why he had gone to be with Lin Jojo. Otherwise, he would have discovered Song Ning's actions much sooner. Although his feelings for Yuan weren't as strong as for Jojo, she was still his flesh and blood. How could he bear to abandon her remains in unconsecrated ground, leaving her alone even on her 7th day? When Song Ning was brought to Lin Lu's office, she felt somewhat uneasy. She had sensed a change in Lin Lu's attitude towards her since Ning left. So, she brought Lin Zhozhou with her. Even if Lin Lu had found something out and was angry with her, he would surely forgive her for Zhozhou's sake. She took a deep breath and led Lin Zhozhou into the office, holding his hand. The moment they entered, Lin Lu grabbed Song Ning's wrist, threw her onto the sofa, and demanded coldly, "Tell me, what's the matter with Yuan's Graveyou? She was my daughter. Even if she wasn't favored, she didn't deserve to be denied a resting place after death." Song Ning's heart sank. She immediately understood that Lin Lu knew about what she had done secretly. She was frantic, tears streaming down her face, and she argued softly, "Lu, listen to me. I was wrong about this. I failed your trust. I also listened to someone who said Yuan's negative energy would harm you, and I was afraid. I was just too in love with you. I cared about you too much." Lin Lu couldn't help but roar, "Song Ning, you're a college-educated woman, how can you believe in such superstitious nonsense?" Song Ning was startled by his outburst. "But, Lin Yuan died so tragically. I was scared too." She trembled beneath his gaze, secretly turning her face to make eye contact with Lin Zhozhou. Lin Zhozhou immediately stepped forward and hugged Lin Lu. "Daddy! Don't blame Mommy. That bad woman stole you and made Mommy suffer so much. That bad woman deserves to die, and that little bastard deserves to die too." Silence! It was the first time Lin Lu realized how spoiled Lin Zhozhou was by his own indulgence. At such a young age, he was using terms like bad woman and little bastard, lacking any of Yuan's politeness and good behavior. In comparison, Ning was so much better at raising a child. And he had forced Yuan to her death and driven Ning away, all for Song Ning and her son. What kind of sin had he committed? Lin Lu felt a deep sense of powerlessness well up from the bottom of his heart. He had planned to settle down with Ning and their daughter after Zhozhou's eyes were healed, living a quiet life. He would have settled Song Ning and her son abroad, and everyone could have lived in peace. He never expected Yuan would be so despairing. It was his neglect of Yuan, otherwise, he wouldn't have taken the eyes she cherished most. He slumped into the sofa in defeat, feeling as if all his strength had been drained away. Just then, the police pushed open he door and entered. "Which one is Lin Lu? Come with us." Lin Lu looked up and saw the badges the officers presented. His heart felt cold. "Officers, what is this? We suspect you're connected to a kidnapping case. Please come with us." Lin Lu took a deep breath, stood up, and followed the police out. Just then, a sharp-eyed officer noticed Song Ning and her son standing nearby. He bent down and asked tentatively, "Young man, how is this man related to you?" "He's my dad." The police, during their investigation, had already uncovered all of Lin Lu's social connections and naturally knew he had an illegitimate son. "So your name is Lin Zhozhou, right?" Lin Zhozhou nodded, not understanding. "According to our information, you lost your eyesight in a fight outside school 3 months ago. How is it better now?" Lin Zhozhou was just a child and couldn't hide anything. He puffed out his chest and said proudly, "My dad got me new eyes. They work great." Before he could finish, Song Ning snapped at him, "Zhozhou, don't talk nonsense." Lin Lu saw the officers' knowing expressions and realized they must have guessed something. But he wasn't afraid. The kidnappers he had bribed had already confessed, and all the evidence had been meticulously erased. Even if the police guessed everything, they couldn't convict him without proof. Just as he regained his composure, an officer escorted a man out of the elevator and walked straight towards them. "Team Leader Yen, we found him downstairs, tied up and left at the entrance." There was a USB drive in his pocket. When Lin Lu saw the man's face, his face turned deathly pale. It was one of the accomplices from the kidnapping case. He had paid him handsomely and sent him to Southeast Asia. How could he suddenly appear in front of the police? The police immediately checked the contents of the USB drive. It was a video recording the entire process of Lin Yuan being kidnapped and her corneas being removed. It even showed Lin Lu receiving the corneas and leaving in a hurry. Then the screen went black, and Lin Lu and assistant Wang's conversation played. Mr. Lin, it's not that hard to find cornea donors. Why insist on using Miss Yuan Yuan's? She loves painting so much, she won't want to live without her eyes. If she dies, she dies. I only allowed her to be born to save Zhou. I've raised her for so many years, is it too much to ask for a pair of her corneas? Besides, the doctor said only corneas from a blood relative have the smallest rejection risk. Zhou is Ning and my precious child, I can't bear for him to suffer even a little. Also, for a Ning's mastectomy, I want the hospital president to perform the surgery himself. Ning is very particular about this enhancement surgery, she cares about her looks. There mustn't be any complications. It was a workday, and employees gathered outside the office door, listening intently. A wave of shock spread, and they began whispering to each other. So President Lin planned the kidnapping of his own daughter and forcibly took the little girl's corneas for his illegitimate son. Ah! No wonder I heard President Lin's daughter jump to her death. That's why. To kill his own daughter for an illegitimate son, how can anyone be such a beast? And he even cut off his wife's breasts for his mistress. It's unbelievable, monstrous. The murmurs grew louder. Song Ning bit her lip hard, lowering her head, her face flushed scarlet. Shut up! I'm not a mistress. You don't know anything. Lu and I were the couple originally. That bitchin' Ning was just an opportunist. Lin Lu found Song Ning's words grating. It was Song Ning who, seeing his company on the verge of bankruptcy, refused to marry him and fled with the child in her belly overnight, marrying an old man abroad. It was Ning who stayed by his side during his most difficult times, begging everyone she knew for connections, enduring countless cold shoulders. Later, during her poor Iyad, she was forced to drink 2 bottles of white wine, resulting in a stomach hemorrhage, just to secure a crucial 10 million investment for him. When the company went public, he held Ning and cried like a child for the first time, kneeling before all the employees and proposing to her. Ning, I, Lin Lu, swear I will never fail you in this life. Ning, marry me, let me cherish you forever. Ning nodded shyly and became his wife. At that time, he wished he could hold Ning in his mouth and cherish her, until Song Ning and Lin Zhou suddenly appeared, and everything slowly changed. Lin Lu thought back to everything that had happened, filled with deep regret. Such a good Ning, how could he have lost her? He followed the police downstairs in a daze. As he bent to get into the police car, he suddenly glimpsed a familiar figure by the wall. It was Ning. I stood with my arms crossed, slowly walking towards Lin Lu. I hadn't seen him for some time. He looked much older, his stubble making him appear particularly disheveled. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. He reached out to grasp me. Ning, is that you? Am I dreaming? Where have you been all this time? I couldn't find you anywhere. I missed you so much. I glanced contemptuously at the silver glint on his wrist. Enough, Lin Lu. It's come to this, there's no need to act anymore. You knew, after all. The light in his eyes suddenly dimmed. Then, as if something dawned on him, his eyes widened in disbelief. That man and the USB drive, was it you? I smiled broadly and nodded solemnly. That's right. During the days I was away, I went to international waters. Before marrying Lin Lu, I was the young master of the largest syndicate in Hong Kong, controlling all underworld forces in Southeast Asia. Later, I retired from the life and handed everything over to my senior brother. This time, I used every resource I could mobilize to uncover everything Lin Lu had done to Yuan Yuan. Finally, my efforts paid off. In a remote town in Southeast Asia, I found the man who had been involved in the kidnapping. Originally, I planned to have him be a cooperating witness to testify against Lin Lu. But to my surprise, fearing Lin Lu would double-cross him, he had recorded the entire process, directly proving Lin Lu's guilt. Seeing Yuan Yuan's terrified little face in the video, and her pale, helpless appearance after the corneal removal surgery, I wanted to tear Lin Lu limb from limb. When she was most afraid, she kept calling out, "Daddy, save me," but she didn't know it was the daddy she loved most who had meticulously planned everything. Lin Lu, do you know, Yuan made the same wish every birthday. She wished you could be there with her, blowing out the birthday candles. Sadly, it never came true, not even when she died. I took out the painting Yuan had drawn herself, my hand trembling as I traced it inch by inch. Look how well she painted. Everyone said she was a rare painting genius, but you destroyed her eyes. Lin Lu had never imagined that this little daughter, whom he had neglected for years, was so talented and loved him so much. Tears he could no longer hold back fell from his eyes. He sobbed uncontrollably. And Ning, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Jojo was born when I wasn't there. I felt I owed him so much, that's why I intended to make it up to them later, then devote myself entirely to you and our daughter. I never expected Yuan would. I'm sorry, I deserve to die. And Ning, I don't ask for your forgiveness. I just hope you can let go of the past and live a good life from now on, can you? Looking at Lin Lu's tearful, regretful face, I gave a contemptuous smile. Lin Lu, don't pretend to be sincere. I can forgive you for cheating, I can forgive you for not loving me, even for turning me into this thing, neither man nor woman, for Song Ning's sake, but I can never forgive you for killing Yuan. I will live well, because I want to see you go to hell with my own eyes. I watched as the police escorted him into the car, and took a deep breath. I looked up at the sky. Yuan, the bad people are about to get their comeuppance. 3 months later, the case of Lin Lu's planned kidnapping leading to death by corneal removal had irrefutable evidence. Given his good attitude in admitting guilt, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. I took Yuan's ashes to a small island in Southeast Asia. It's beautiful and secluded here, Yuan would love it. The day I saw the news report, I was by Yuan's tombstone, talking to her idly. Before going to prison, Lin Lu had his lawyer arrange a meeting with me. He changed his will, gifting all his company's assets to me unconditionally. I glanced at it, a number with countless zeros, and immediately donated it to a charity foundation. Along with the will came a signed divorce agreement. Looking at our names, I suddenly felt that these 10 years of marriage had truly been like a dream. After Lin Lu went to prison, Song Ning packed up valuables overnight and fled abroad again with Lin Jojo. It turned out, she had never ended her marriage with her foreign husband. Her reason for coming back in the first place was simply resentment and unwillingness to accept things. It is said that not long after she went abroad, she died on the operating table due to a breast infection that led to sepsis. Lin Jojo, lacking parental discipline, fell in with street youth, became homeless, contracted several diseases, and spent his days in the red light district. Later, I never went back. Instead, I simply opened an art studio on the island and hired renowned artists to teach the local children to paint. Watching them carefully outline stroke by stroke in the afternoon sun, I imagined countless times, if Yuan were still here, she would be like this too. And